AI is revolutionizing the way we work by automating routine tasks, providing data-driven insights, and enhancing decision-making processes. But what does this all mean for sales, service, marketing, and IT professionals? And how can they all harness these advancements to better serve their customers? I'm Leandro Perez, Vice President and CMO of Salesforce Asia Pacific, and I'm excited to be hosting another Salesforce Executive Conversation, where my guests share their thoughts, perspectives, and experience working with C-suite and other thought leaders across the globe. We've already had so many incredible conversations. If you've missed an episode, you can catch up at sfdc.co/conversations. Joining us today from his home in New York is Tony Fernicola, President and Chief Customer Officer at Salesforce. Tony is responsible for bringing the power of Salesforce to the world's largest organizations. Prior to his current role, Tony was President of the Salesforce Enterprise Business Unit, leading that organization worldwide. He has a 40-year track record building high-performance teams that deliver customer success. Tony, thank you for joining us all the way from New York.
Leandro, it's my pleasure, and I'm certainly sorry that I'm not there in person.
Oh, it's okay. I'm so glad we can do this virtually. That's the beauty of technology still. All right, Tony, let's start off with some rapid fire questions. I'm going to take you back to your early childhood. What did you want to be when you were a kid?
Well, I'm not sure I was a kid, but actually I wanted to become a dentist. And however, I hit Morrison Boyd's third edition of organic chemistry in college, and that was the end of my dentistry career. I then thought maybe I should be an accountant. It seemed pretty good at the time, and so I went along that for a while, and then I hit cost accounting, and that was the end of that. So then I said, well, okay, well then I'm going to go into marketing and economics as a major because I felt at that point you can answer just about any question with "it depends" and be right. So that's how I wound up in sales.
I love the progression there. Fascinating. Well, look, you've had a really successful career across the globe. How has the craft of sales changed over that time?
Well, in a lot of respects, it hasn't changed all that much. But I'd say now it's probably getting a lot more complex than it used to. And it's also turned into what I would say is a team sport. So I'd say those are the probably two main differences this go around is that you need a team now to sell, and it's getting more and more technical in nature.
Tony, you've managed large teams. In your experience, what differentiates those that are most successful from the rest?
Yeah, I mean today, if you look at good salespeople, first off, they know their products. They know their customers. They have to listen very intently today. They have to do a lot of discovery work. They got to propose solutions. They've got to bring the complete resources of the company to the client. They have to be an advocate for the client internally at the company that they serve. They also need to, and this is always tricky, but they also need to be able to balance the short term and the long term. And that's always been something you had to deal with, but even more so today than I think in the past. And when I talk to sales folks, and it doesn't really matter what type of company you're at, but I think there are three types of selling, and I always tell people it's not one or the other. It's really all three. There's nothing wrong with selling product. If a customer needs a certain product, like Sales Cloud or Service Cloud, perfectly okay to sell that. It's also okay to sell a solution, which in my opinion, especially for the products at Salesforce, would constitute multiple clouds, so sales and service and marketing maybe together. And then the third way, which is also equally important today, is you have to sell strategically, and that also takes a different type of selling motion, which, by the way, I think Salesforce has a very good selling motion in that regard. and that leads you primarily into the C-suite, even at the CEO level, where you're selling strategically. So, you got to do all three. It's not one or the other. It's a short term and a long term, and that's what I think sets the good sales executives apart from those that don't quite be as successful.
Technology has infused all of our business operations, and sales is not immune to that. How have you leveraged sales as a leader and in your teams?
Yeah, so really good question, and I think even to today, by the way, the statement I'm going to make is true, and that is many companies still run their sales function on spreadsheets. And I came from a company, a technology company, prior to working for Salesforce, that had a CRM product. And in fact, we ran on spreadsheets. And the problem, as many people know, running on spreadsheets is the minute you get the data, it's outdated and it's wrong. And it leads to inaccurate information and forecasting. So I had the pleasure when I first came to Salesforce to actually, for the first time in my career, which now has spanned over 44 years, believe it or not, the first time that I actually sold a product that I used. Uh, and, and so when I think about how I used the Sales Cloud product, it was really to manage a worldwide sales force in almost near real time, getting accurate forecast information throughout the world. And and at any moment in time, especially if a large transaction was to get moved out by any one of the sales executives, I would get alerts. So I had up to date, almost near real time information about the company forecast, and it was in my pocket. So that's pretty powerful. And I don't know how you would operate or run a worldwide sales organization today without having something like that. I'd have to go every Monday to the executive committee and talk about the forecast and talk about the deals. And the last thing you wanted to do was, say a deal was fine, it was going to happen, walk out the door, and then find out that somebody moved the deal out, just hours or days before. The other part of the system that was powerful for me was something we call the APM, or I believe it's the Accountability Product Matrix. And again, it was a dashboard I had in my pocket. And what this dashboard allowed me to do was look at year-to-date comparisons and answer questions about how we were doing in a given division, in a given geography, in a given product. And so, as an example, it used to be okay that we grew 20% overall. Everybody was happy. But at one point in time, it wasn't good enough to just grow 20%. It was how did you grow 20%? And so, what this accountability product matrix allowed us to do was say, okay, in the enterprise division, in the UK, in Sales Cloud, we grew, I'll make it up a number, 60%. But in Service Cloud, in the UK, in the enterprise division, we were minus 20%. We might have been cumulatively 20% growth, but why are we negative 20% in Service Cloud in that area? And so then you start asking your questions. You dive in and you say, well, do we not hire salespeople? Do we not have sales consultants? Do we not have language support? Did we not, have proper documentation? So it was a different way to manage the business. And by the way, I had that at my fingertips. And so when I get the call and someone asks me how we're doing in a given area, in a given product, in a given division, I had the answer. And so between those two products, or those two dashboards, it was extremely easy to manage the sales force and be accurate and be timely with the information. And it also helped reduce stress. And the stress comes in the fact that you don't have the information. You got to go ask somebody else for it.
I love that. I think a product feature should be reducing stress to deliver results. I love that for sure.
Total reduction of stress.
Now, the hot topic today is AI. How are you seeing AI affecting the sales function, and any use cases you can share?
Yeah, so let me tell you how we used AI at Salesforce. And again, I looked at the forecasting application, which again we give you the forecast for each of the geographic divisions around the world. and give you things like year over year information and give you some data on large deals and next steps and management notes and things of that nature. But we began to use artificial intelligence, in this case Einstein artificial intelligence, to become another indicator of whether the forecast was accurate or not. So we would actually ask Einstein to give us his prediction on what our forecast looked like for the quarter. And we began using that about 3 years ago. And I would say when we initially began to use it, we were a little bit suspect about its accuracy. But over time, as more and more data got into the system, Einstein became very accurate in terms of predicting the forecast. And the only time it really wasn't is and we get blown out is if you got a very large transaction that would kind of blow it out. But with the exception of that, it was another very good indicator of whether or not our forecast was within line. So that was one way. The other way, and this is more from an account executive perspective, is Einstein would actually look at the opportunities within the Salesforce application. And Einstein would look at those opportunities and it would say things like, you have a task overdue, right? So it would point out the fact you had a task overdue. Or are you sure that this dollar amount for this deal is accurate? Because based on history, it looks out of whack based on this customer's buying patterns over time. It would also do things like read context off emails that might have been associated with the opportunity. And I had one come up one day and said, based on what I'm reading in this email, I don't think you're going to get this deal. So it was pretty interesting to have those things come up and provide some information to the account executives and sales management. And then lastly, we began to use it to look at things like white space and start making some predictions on what the customer might buy next, and give the sales executives some indication that they might want to present a certain product based on history and based on some facts.
Fascinating examples. And I guess that's to prove the point that we've been talking about AI for some time. But now generative AI is all the buzz, Tony. So tell us a little bit about how you're thinking about some of these newer use cases where whether it's a leader or an AE can leverage that technology.
Yeah, so now we fast forward and now it's Einstein GPT, so it's generative AI. And when you think about sales, what you can see happening here is Einstein GPT will begin to do things like consolidate information about. So let's say you're a new account exec, and you just to go over a new account. Einstein GPT will begin to consolidate all the history around that account, all the relationships around that account. It'll bring in external data as well as deal with internal data, and it'll give you a complete synopsis about the company, kind of where we've been with the company, some of the executives, and kind of where we should go with the company. So that'll be right at your fingertips. So that's an example of generative AI. The other things it'll do, it can help you summarize meetings, as an example. If it's listening in a meeting, it can actually summarize meeting notes for you. It can summarize action items for you. It can create follow-up emails for you. So it's going to really assist. It's going to be an assistant, basically, is what it's going to be, to the sales executive. And by the way, all the rest of the products that we sell as well, each one of them is going to have an assistant. So whether it's service or marketing or commerce, you can just think of generative AI, in this case Einstein, as an assistant. But those are some examples, I think, for sales where you'll see generative AI really help the sales executive and increase productivity.
You mentioned there the term of AI being an assistant. I love that. Obviously, there's been a lot of concerns, in particular from folks thinking that maybe their roles will go away or be replaced. Can you touch a little bit on how you think about that?
Yeah, I don't have that same feeling, I think it's going to increase the productivity of the sales executives or service agents, that are currently in existence. And I think what it's going to do is allow us to have more ability to sell more, basically, or service the customer better, or market to the customer better. So I don't necessarily see us losing jobs related to AI. I just see it enhancing the jobs that we're doing today and making us more productive and more efficient and driving both revenue while at the same time reducing costs.
You've built your career on relationships, I imagine, given the roles that you've been in. How do you continue those relationships over the multi decades that you've had? What is there any secret to your success there, Tony?
Well, first off, the good news is relationships still do matter. And by the way, when you think about generative AI, and maybe I should have said this in your last question, was, is it going to eliminate salespeople? Well, it's certainly not going to eliminate salespeople because relationships really do still matter, right? They really do. And I think when I think about the use of AI and how you create relationships, especially new ones, it's kind of like the 6 degrees of separation. You're always looking for the angle to try to figure out what's the common denominator between you and somebody new that you're meeting, right? Whether it's, you went to the same school, you live in the same town, you go to the same country club, you've gone to the same places, you've worked for the same companies, you know the same people. So I think generative AI in this situation is going to allow us to pick those things out a lot quicker. And when you have that information at your fingertips, it's going to allow people like myself and perhaps yourself as well, find that nugget to start to create that common opportunity and then common relationship, and open up some doors and allow you to create a long-lasting relationship with the customer. So I think from that perspective, generative AI is going to help us build relationships. The other thing I'd say about relationships in general is, you never want to let a good crisis go to waste. And so when I think about, my career and the strength of some of the relationships I have with some of the clients, a lot of them were born out of the fact that we had an initial problem, and we were able to solve that problem, to the customer's satisfaction, and that built trust, and it built the knowledge of the customer, knowing that, when you said you were going to do something, you actually did it, and did it well. So, those types of opportunities create an opportunity to build long-lasting relationships that, it's a small world out here, right?
Now, Tony, in your career, you've managed large teams, international teams. We've talked about relationships with customers. What about the relationship with your team, especially when we see technologies moving fast? We see obviously macro environments changing. How do you have your teams perform at their best? What would be your advice to other leaders or individuals?
Well, as far as motivating sales executives, and as a leader, nothing speaks volumes more than if you as the leader are willing to roll up your sleeves, and get down in the trenches with the team and help them get things done. Um, to me over my career, that's been the pinnacle of, gaining the trust of the sales organization, and gaining their willingness to kind of go through walls for you when you need them. When they know you're in the fight with them, they will go out of their way to do really really good things to get things done and execute. And that's what good sales leaders do. They get in there with their troops. They don't manage from the ivory tower, right? They go out in the field, and their generals on the battlefield. And when the sales team see you out there, they fall in line and get behind you.
Tony, we've been talking about some exciting technology advancements, whether it's AI, whether it's generative AI. We have a C-suite audience. What advice would you give to them for how they can get started?
Yeah, so I think first off, at the C-suite level, my recommendation would be to make sure that they're educated on the applications that can help their teams, and that includes all the clouds plus all of the artificial intelligence capabilities, both generative and predictive. Um, and I would say, we're now participating in many pilots for generative AI as an example, and a couple of observations. One is, we're actually seeing really good results. So we're seeing things like close rates increasing anywhere from 14 to 30% as an example. Um, we're starting to see the blending of sales, service, and marketing together, right? It's just happening. So I think you've got to start. You've got to fund these projects. Number one, you've got to probably start small. You've got to put your best people on these projects, people who can determine whether or not what's being generated is accurate. Um, you've got to make sure you have a good data strategy. Bad data equals bad results. So you've got to have a good data strategy. You've got to consider things like security and compliance and regulation. And then I think you need to reach out to companies like Salesforce to help you get started. Um, but you've got to get going because this stuff is here, it's real, and it's going to make a real impact. And of course, it's got to be used ethically. But assuming that happens, I think we're going to see great results from these products.
You talked about ethics right there, Tony. Anything there in particular you're hearing from customers? Are they concerned? How can we help? Or what's the best way to go forward there in terms of leveraging these new technologies?
Yeah, well, I think generally people are concerned, that AI can be used to, end the world, so to speak, or get into the wrong hands. And that includes data as well. There have been a lot of issues where data's gotten into these large models unintentionally, and you can't get it back. So, I think where companies like ours can help is really around those areas. Make sure your data is protected. Your data is your data, and the security layers that we're building around our generative AI is meant to completely isolate your data from external models. While also being able to use external models to get data, but not to put your data inside them and then lose it forever. Um, and then we're gonna use these products for good. I mean, we're gonna build features and functions into our various clouds, and you can be rest assured that all those features and functions are going to be used for good. Um, but I think those are the things you need to consider.
Now, Tony, probably final question here. You've got an audience not only of C-suite folks across the Asia Pacific. Anything I didn't cover today that you want to share as a message as looking ahead to the future?
No, I think we're in the early innings of this new technology. In our case, called Einstein GPT, and I think it's going to move fast, and I think it's going to move quick. It's going to create a lot of opportunity to allow us all to be a lot more productive, to service our clients a lot better, to sell a lot better, to market a lot better. I think the only other thing I'd say is, we're in our company, we're experts at customer experience and employee experience. And so when I look at customers, both customer and employee experience kind of go hand in hand. The happy employees servicing customers usually is a good thing. And we've got a lot of expertise in our company around innovating around those two areas. And so I would say, for anybody listening to this, if they could engage Salesforce in those two areas, because we've got great capability to innovate around both the customer and the employee experience. We also understand that most of our customers, are not starting out with a clean sheet of paper. So, creating innovation sometimes is the easy part. The hard part is actually implementing. So, in addition to creating the innovation, we've got the capability to create a roadmap to allow you to actually execute on that innovation, understanding that you're not starting out with a clean sheet of paper and you have system constraints. And then lastly, we're very cognizant of the fact that, it's important to have a business case. Is there a reason to do this? Right. So we've got several programs, you can pick a name for them. We've got several names, but that concept of innovating around customer and employee experience, building a roadmap given current system constraints, and coming up with a business case that says whether you should actually do it or not, are the areas that we excel at, in addition to all of our applications.
Love that answer, Tony. Wise words. Thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. My 3 takeaways are as follows. Number 1, relationships matter, whether that's with your customer or your team. Number 2, AI technology already exists and is being leveraged successfully across organizations, but there are exciting new things on the horizon. And number 3, it is only an early innings in AI. Things are moving fast and accelerating, but you can always get started now. Thank you so much again, Tony, for joining us. Really appreciate it. Joining us from all the way in New York.
Yeah, thank you, Leandro. Pleasure to be here.
If you want to catch up on the chats we've had so far with some of the most interesting and valued executives in our ecosystem, visit sfdc.co/conversations. We are covering the ideas and concepts that are top of mind for executives and leaders within business to share and inspire and help you connect with your customers in a whole new way. So far, we've covered AI to deliver limitless customer experiences, driving success now, flexibility and productivity for better business outcomes, and so much more. Thank you for tuning in to our executive conversations. See you next time.